Today we speak to Ankkit from Boomi. We talk about how recruiting and talent acquisition in the Asia Pacific works nowadays. Stay tuned. Welcome to HR Visionaries, where we unlock the secrets of modern HR. I'm Benjamin, your host. Join us as we shed light on today's HR universe with HR leaders and innovators from across the globe. Whether you're an HR pro, a business leader, or just curious about the future of work, this is your shortcut to the forefront of HR innovation. Brought to you by Hire, the AI talent attraction platform. Welcome to our latest episode of HR Visionaries. I'm looking forward to my guest today, our first podcast with someone in Singapore. Ankkit, it's great to have you.
Thank you for having me, Ben. Really glad to be here.
So you're with us from the lovely town of Singapore. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and who you are, first of all, obviously?
Sure. My name is Ankkit Kediah. I head the talent acquisition team for Boomi across our Asia, Pacific, and Japan region. That covers countries like Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, and India. So I'm based out of Singapore, or sunny Singapore, as we call it. And I manage and lead the talent acquisition efforts for Boomi in the region. That is a bit about me. I've been with Boomi for the past close to 5 years now. So can be called an old timer. When Boomi was part of Dell actually a couple of years back, and then it spun out and we were acquired by private equity firms, Francesco Partners and TPG Capital. So yeah, been here for a long time, seen a lot of things, mostly good. So yeah.
Super. I'm really excited to talk to you today because talent acquisition in a region spreading from Asia to India to Japan is obviously so diverse, and talent acquisition is so different in those areas. I'm super excited. Can you tell us a bit about your journey into HR? So why is it that you like talent acquisition?
Yeah, so originally, Ben, I'm from India, and after my graduation, I was working in India where I got this brilliant idea of doing MBA. So after all my research, I decided to pursue my master's in Singapore from a university called Edinburgh Business School, which they have a campus here in Singapore. So while I was actually doing my MBA, I met a lot of friends through networking events and so on who were involved in talent acquisition. Rather, they were part of agency recruitment and they were part of internal recruitment as well. So while learning and networking, I got to know about what does a talent acquisition professional does, what does their day-to-day responsibility looks like, right? And that really excited me. The point which really excited me is, in this role, you help out others build a career, right? You help people have an understanding, and never, not a single day is the same, right? You meet people from all walks, all backgrounds, you learn from their experiences while trying to, in the smallest and tiniest manner possible, helping them in shaping their careers, positioning them for success. And that was really exciting as a professional who wanted to get started within HR and within HR talent acquisition. So yeah, I think that was kind of a calling. And since then, I've loved it so much. I've never managed to look back on it. So yeah, from a recruiter to a team lead to leading the region right now, it's been a journey.
It's I think super interesting to talk about this, given well, when you think about advising people for in certain situations. So for example, advising someone on an investment decision, okay, that makes you over 10 years perhaps like $2,000 or $3,000 richer or poorer. However, when you advise someone in terms of their career, it has a it can have an impact on their career, on their life, that changes their life completely. Well, in particular, when you talk about different jurisdictions, so to move from one jurisdiction to the other, it's like a life-changing decision.
Yeah, it is. And as you said, from one region to another region, Asia, as we all know it, is a huge, huge region, right? With different cultures, different communities, different laws and regulations regarding employment and hiring and so on. And it does take years of experience and hard work in order to, get an understanding across such a broad spectrum of countries, right? So for example, hiring in India can be so very different to hiring in Singapore, which can be so very different from hiring in Japan, right? Culturally, you have to get up to speed with all the cultural nuances, of course, the statutory laws which govern the place and so on. And I guess that is exciting, right? Of course, it can't be done overnight. It takes you years of experience talking to thousands, if not more, candidates and professionals likewise. And yeah, it has been interesting. It has been very, very enriching at the same time. um, I can happily say, before Boomi and Dell, I was part of Google as part of their APAC cloud team, where I was managing similar kind of regions in Singapore, Japan, India, Korea as well. And it is it is just wonderful to understand that something which might not be a problem in Singapore, you might not even consider it or think about it when you are going through the recruitment process, might be such a big thing in another region, right? For example, Japan or wherever it might be. So yeah, interesting and very enriching, as I said. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about your journey? So you mentioned some very big names in the tech space. So after university, what did you do then?
Yeah, after university, I joined agency recruitment, where I was supporting a multitude of industries as an external recruitment consultant slash partner in terms of their hiring needs. So back then, I was primarily working with technology and BFSI clients, which is banking, financial services industry clients as well. So I worked with clients like DBS, which is one of the biggest bank in the region, Standard Chartered as well. I've worked with some of the technology companies, local companies, which are SIs, NCS of the world, and so on, right? So my role over there was to understand our clients' requirements, understand their pain points, where they're coming from, and help them fill the positions, because a lot of these positions have a lot of implications, whether it can be on project, it can be on delivery, and so on. So right, so that is where I started my journey in talent acquisition. So I've always been a 360 recruiter in my life. So I was working in agency recruitment for a few years before I decided that I want to go in-house. And the primary reason behind that was I wanted to understand in depth, right? While you are an agency recruiter, you're probably working in a team model where you cut across a variety of industries, and your expertise is in recruitment, but you don't probably have a depth of understanding in specific corporate model in terms of the product, the offerings they have. So that kind of intrigued me to move into in-house talent acquisition. And at that point of time, Google was hiring, and of course, who doesn't want to be get a position in Google? So I tried, and yeah, and then I got part of Google Cloud. At that point of time, it was massive, and they were making a lot of investments in the region, in the business as well. And so I joined Google and was managing their cloud business across APJ as well. And post that, Dell happened. So within Dell, I was managing again multiple businesses of Dell. Dell, as you know, is again a behemoth of an organization, right? Uh, as one of those, my responsibilities was Boomi as one of
Mhm.
the verticals.
And,
So yeah.
and then can you tell us a bit about Boomi? So what do you
Mhm.
guys do? What are you specialized in?
Yeah, absolutely. So Boomi is a category leading software as a service company, Ben, which primarily at the moment is provides integration services. Right now, at Boomi, we strongly believe that when you combine integration plus automation, that really results in digital transformation. So I'm very happy and proud to say that Boomi has been one of the market leaders within the integration space for the past 10 years. In fact, we have been a market leader in the integration platform as a service space for the past 10 years. And currently, I believe we have more than 20,000 customers and a worldwide network of approximately 800 partners, which is, I think, to be really happy and proud about.
It sounds super interesting. And I think it's always always also quite a challenge, particularly in software as a service, to communicate to talents. Okay, what do we actually do? So what is your impact? And why is it cool to work for us? So how do you do that? How do you communicate your employer value proposition to potential candidates, to potential applicants?
Yeah, so SaaS is a very interesting space, isn't it? When we think
Indeed,
about it,
it's
yeah,
it's but
a
it's
lot
also
of
very intangible, right?
yeah. It is intangible in a way, yes. When we look at it from a layman's perspective, we talk about cloud, we talk about SaaS, we talk about other stuff, right? For people who are not potentially that technologically driven, it can sound a bit alien. But in short, what we do is we integrate everything with everywhere, right? Essentially, what that means is different organizations need different workflows or work streams in order to be productive and to make calculative decisions, right? Where Boomi comes in, let me take a step back. Let me tell you what is our mantra at the moment, right? So Boomi is all about three A's right now, right? The one is automation, right? So we integrate and we automate. Second is about AI, as you kind of know, everything is about AI now, right now, which is artificial intelligence. But Boomi has made a lot of investment in AI, and I can proudly say that we are one of the first movers to adopt AI technology. And the third is APIM, which is Application Programming Interface Management. Again, a bit of technical words, but essentially what we are doing is we are integration services provider, which integrates different technologies so that the end user, the data which the end user needs becomes easier. It is cloud native, it is fast. So yeah, making your job or anyone who uses Boomi easier in terms of interpretation of data, interpretation, connectivity of technologies, and so on.
Um, how do you get in touch with people? So hiring in a region between India, Australia, and Japan. And I will most certainly underestimate the distances. So probably from India, from the western tip of India to the most eastern part of Australia, it's gonna be like 8,000 kilometers or something, or
Yeah,
so it's huge, right? So
it,
people might comment, okay, well, this is perhaps not correct, but it's huge, right? So the area you're covering. Mm.
yeah. It is huge, and that is where Singapore is aptly located, right? Singapore is pretty much in the middle of Pacific and the rest of APJ, sitting right in between Australia, India, and Japan per se. And then it has, a pretty much a similar time zone with, other countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, and so Taiwan. Again, all these are big markets for us and in the region really. So when we talk about connecting people, right, within the organization, we have a very good structure we have put in place, right, where we have people who with certain skill sets based out of India. We have our engineering hub in India, where is pretty much you can call it a backbone for us. a lot of technical people. We identified India as one of the regions which has a lot of technical talent which we can leverage in. And then, in the rest of Asia, we have our sales offices and GTM functions. So it again is divided into regions, which is Japan, Asia, and ANZ, Australia and New Zealand. So it is a lot of kilometers if you think about it that way. But the beauty of it is in the details of structuring your businesses in a manner which makes each region productive on its own, yet on a collective basis, it supports global growth, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And can you talk us a bit about, tell us a bit about your approach to running talent acquisition teams? So, how can you make sure that people in India are aligned with the people in Australia? It's, well, first of all, it's a time difference between Sydney and the tech hubs in India.
Yep.
At the same time, there are cultural differences, and nevertheless, well, coherent message needs to come across to all the people you're hiring.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great question, Ben. My short answer to that, and then of course I'll describe it further, is communication.
Mhm.
Right. I believe keeping everyone up to date requires a certain level of communication, which is authentic and transparent. Right. So if I talk about my team, I try to, as a leader, I try to impart as much global knowledge, not just regional, of course, but as much global and regional knowledge to the team so that they are aware, right? They don't get caught off guard, and they're as aware as possibly can be. When it comes to cultural understanding, of course, as I said, it comes with experience. It is not something you can learn overnight in my personal experience. So what I try to do is I try to at least give my team, for example, right, trainings and a bit of a background about what are the cultural nuances and sensitivities they should be keeping in mind. Say, for example, when talking to an external candidate, right? In Japan, for example, generally the tendency is that people don't like to change jobs because culturally it is not the thing they are grown up seeing other
Mhm.
people do, right? So they try to stick to their jobs, and they are very, very loyal individuals, and so on. So while you're approaching someone in Japan to join Boomi, for example, there has to be certain cultural sensitivities which needs to be considered and be cognizant about before you engage with someone. So as a leader, that becomes my responsibility because I have the expertise which I have gained through a decade of experience working in the region to ensure that my team is up to speed with it, uh, are trained on certain things which are needed, of course. And a lot of times I try to handhold them initially to see if whatever I can. It's not like I encourage mistakes, but I do not despise them.
Mhm.
Right. My thing is that you learn from your mistakes, but as long as you don't keep repeating it. So that is what in a sense we try to do, not just at my team level, but across Boomi. It's about communication, it's about transparency, it is about making sure people respect each other time working in different time zones, right? So as much as possible, you try and schedule meetings in something which is mutually acceptable. And yeah. So,
I must say, I found this incredibly interesting, given, well, it's very much about the nuances, right? As you mentioned, so tiny things that can make a huge difference to people,
yeah.
and it's perhaps also, well, you mentioned, well, your very long experience in the field helps a lot, but it's then probably also very, very important for you guys to let that trickle down
Yes.
to the people on the ground to be mindful of that.
Yes, absolutely. It is all about respecting each other and the cultures as well, right? No, no one is above anything. It's all about human respect and mutual respect. to each other, communicating that in the most transparent manner as much as possible. And keeping those sensitivities in mind goes a long way, more than what people can imagine, I can be honest with you.
Um, the well, the setting up this structure in those different areas. How did you approach this? So you need to find the right people on the ground in these different areas. Is probably a lot of talking to people, understanding where they are coming from, and then make sure that they provide their candidates or the candidates they're talking to with a coherent message.
Yeah, so there are multiple ways of reaching out to a potential talent pool, right? Again, considering the cultural nuances. So, what we try and do is, first of all, we try and ensure that we have a very realistic expectations of the candidates, right? And in today's world, Ben, it is not just us interviewing the candidate, it is the candidate interviewing us as well, right? It is a two-way street. So what we try and do is we try and have our expectations of a particular role. Say if we are hiring a software engineer, right? We need to ensure, or my role as a talent acquisition leader is to work with the business and ensure that the expectations they have is reasonable and it's not everything under the sun, right? So that is where it starts. For example, my role starts with project discussions, the kind of strategic initiatives we are doing, and so on, looking at the current team, the strengths we have, the kind of gaps we want to fill to make the team more productive and effective, right from very scratch till what kind of roles are we looking at, what kind of skill sets we want in as an organization, what kind of skill sets are such skill sets available in the market, and what's the scarcity, what's the talent pool, and so on. So all of those data driven decisions are being made in the background even before we open a requisition or we go to the market, right? Once we have a realistic expectation with the business and the say talent acquisition team, we go out and advertise the role, um, both externally and internally. As an organization, we are a big promoter of organic growth. We believe that if we provide organic growth, that is the best way of of increasing productivity and of course repaying the loyalty of individuals as well. So we do post requisitions externally and internally. In today's world, in my personal opinion, again, I believe a lot of work we do is proactive rather than reactive, posting the requisition and waiting for applications to just trickle down. We also look at passive candidates, and there are various means of doing it. For example, LinkedIn is a global platform which is used widely across the industries, but we also have other platforms in different regions. For example, in India, we have a platform called Naukri, which is highly used in that region. Japan has their own kind of platforms and tools which we use in terms of candidate reach outs and so on, right? So yeah, that if that answers your question.
Uh, yeah, absolutely. It's really fascinating. And you mentioned, well, a data-driven approach that you know very well what kind of skills you need and you need to hire. Can you talk us, well, tell us a bit about this. So how do you actually approach data-driven hiring?
Yeah, sure, Ben. So the thing is that the data-driven decision making is critical to any leadership, right? Why is that so? Because it enables us to execute results-focused recruitment strategies. If I'm not wrong, I was recently going through a data which says that roughly 24% of the HR leaders will continue to invest in analytics and reporting tools to improve the speed and the efficiency of the recruitment process, right? Now, if we talk about data, why is it so important, especially when we talk about talent acquisition and recruitment as a whole? We have to look at data like time to fill, what are the sourcing effectiveness, what is the offer acceptance ratio, what is the offer joining ratio. Now what that does is that provides hiring teams and talent acquisition teams with actionable insights, which we can use in order to improve our work, the way we go out to the market, the way we approach certain talent pools and so on. which in turn essentially gets us the top talent in the market. We have a proven record of what worked, what did not work. In terms of our hires, continuously we are looking at those data. And again, my personal opinion is companies which lack data-driven approach, especially into their hiring, um, do tend to lag behind when it comes to attracting top talent and being at your productive best. So yeah, these are the things which are critical in terms of making sure that you have a data driven organization making decisions based on that.
If listeners now say, okay, well, I totally hear you, and well, of course, makes sense, but isn't that very tough to achieve? So isn't it that, well, lots of work and lots of internal resistance I have to overcome to implement such a structure that allows me to gather data and to analyze data. So what would you answer to that? How can I overcome those internal brick walls?
Yeah, and you see the smile on my face, right? Because this is not the
Indeed.
first time I have come across something like this. No, I always say this to my business stakeholders, right? The one thing which is constant is change, right? Think
Mhm.
about it, say 15, 20 years back when we did not have technology or internet. The way we used not we probably the way hiring used to happen was very very different, right? Advertisement on newspapers and so on. And when the digitization happened, the recruitment processes and methods changed from having walk-in interviews with advertisements on newspapers, local magazines and so on, to being more digital, online through job boards, through company career posting and so on, to nowadays hackathons, which in previous days what was walk-ins has more structure around it in terms of hackathons, having cognitive test analysis, personality test analysis, certain coding test and so on. Why do you think there is a change? Because we need to evolve. That is one thing which we do as humans. We evolve given our circumstances. We evolve to be more productive, right? And this is the same thing. If we are not data driven, if I'm not wrong, 70% of the leaders who are not data driven and have unconscious bias in their
Mhm.
hiring end up having a lot more of retrenchments
Mhm.
slash attrition in their teams, and the productivity in comparison to leaders who have a more data driven approach is much higher, and the attrition rate is much lower. And yeah, the business might at times can be resistance, but if you think about it, with the kind of tools we have in place, as not just with the onset of AI, of course, the world of recruitment is going to change slightly again with the onset
Mhm.
of AI. But even before that, we have tools and methods of running data, which is very, very easily put down in Power BIs and presentations, which are visually very easy to understand. So if, as long as a TA leader, I make the job of my business easy, see what's the advantage of having a data-driven approach, I don't think they will have a problem.
And that was actually my next question. So what do you think are the big trends for HR, in particular for recruiting in the next few years?
Yeah. Uh, it is interesting, right? Everyone is talking about the trend. What are we going to do? Is this AI and generative AI in particular? So in my opinion, Ben, I believe 24 is going to be a big year for
Mhm.
talent acquisition in particular, right? We will start seeing gradual shift in the way our recruitment is done. I wouldn't say it will be a complete shift in terms of the model, but there would
Mhm.
be a decent change in way the recruitment is done. In my opinion, there will be a lot more digitization of
Mhm.
the recruitment process, starting from searching of talent, interviewing, onboarding. The rise of AI will mean that each stage of the recruitment process will be optimized using tools and ATSs, right? Now, if you want me to talk about artificial intelligence and how you think it will impact, it will probably impact everyone, right? Not just the companies, but the candidates, the entire process, right? So I believe there will be a twofold approach from both employers and employees using AI. 92% of the HR leaders do plan to ramp up their use of automation in the year 2024 alone. So that kind of shows the kind of impact AI will have in the recruitment process, right? Now let's switch a gear and probably think about it from a candidate standpoint. How will AI help candidates in terms of landing their dream jobs and so on, right? So candidates will be using AI tools, and as a talent acquisition leader, we are aware of that. They will be using AI tools to elevate their CVs, get a much better understanding of the role, the organization, while positioning themselves much closer to the requirements, right? With the digitization, with information availability being spread across and being available so relevantly and so easily, it will be a candidate's mistake if they don't position themselves as per the organization they are looking to apply for and as for the role. So AI will do a massive job in terms of making this path easier for them in terms of automating a lot of stuff and researching and so on, right? And from an employee standpoint, it is going to be tough for us because a lot of candidates will use AI and will be much closer, at least on paper, towards our requirements and JDs and so on, right? So as an employee, it then as an employer, it then becomes a TA team responsibility to use AI in candidate selection. How can we do that is through advanced algorithms which will analyze data to potentially identify precise matches, assess skills, and cultural fit more efficiently, right? AI has, I genuinely believe AI has a lot to offer to recruiters. It speeds up our processes, writes job descriptions, powers through things like pre-screening, video interviews, and also assesses candidates to find the best matches for roles. So yeah, that is going to be a big thing.
Cool. I had one last question. So, also a bit in the direction of, well, what AI can do. I was wondering what your opinion is on um, talent experience or candidate experience. So, the question in my mind is the following. So, given so many consumer brands
Yep.
have now such a great experience with regards to customer experience. How can talent or candidate experience catch up there?
Candidate experience is critical for us, Ben.
Mhm.
In everything we do, we put our candidate first, and in fact, we call it customers
Mhm.
or clients. You know, for us, candidate is as important to us from an organizational belief standpoint as a client is, and providing candidate experience, a positive candidate experience, is absolutely at the helm of it. And as an organization, it is not just critical for us that we provide positive candidate experience, but it is a crucial differentiator, as you mentioned, right? So many companies are looking towards customer excellence, you know, candidate satisfactions, and so on and so forth. So it is a crucial differentiator for us. We in fact in Boomi have a certain policy which is called circle back policy, in which we ensure that all candidates that go through our recruitment process hear back from us on the status of their application within a stipulated time frame. So we have committed to this as an organization through a circle back initiative, that any candidate who has interviewed with us, met our TA team, or gone through the process of interviewing with the rest of the business will hear back from us within a stipulated time frame, and that is proactively communicated to the candidate in terms of next step. And that is critical, right? In the world of talent acquisitions, the biggest blame um, which comes our way is that, hey, this recruiter ghosted me, and that we understand
Mhm.
it is tough for a recruiter to go back to each and every candidate, but we understand that as a candidate, if you are investing time in interviewing with us and taking time out to consider joining Boomi as an organization, it then becomes our responsibility to ensure that they have a clear understanding of the process. And if they are not shortlisted, they they get a feedback on what happened, so that they can improve further on their skills, at least from our standpoint on what they can do. So Circle Back initiative helps us in achieving that, and the entire team is brought in on it. We also believe in personalized communication, Ben. So with the emergence of AI, it now allows us for personalized communication with candidate through automated emails, uh, suggesting relevant job openings, providing updates on application status. So we are investing heavily in tools which can help us achieve all of these aforementioned things. And lastly, I would like to say is something like recruitment chatbot. I don't know if you have heard about it. No. So what we are investing in is things like chatbot for initial engagement, which is powered by generative AI, which can help engage with candidates in real time, answering queries, providing information about the company, about the role, and even to an extent conducting initial assessments or providing them with sample questions which they can prepare on for their upcoming interviews. So all of these ties back to candidate experience, and as I said, it is critical belief within Boomi and within our talent acquisition team that we provide positive candidate experience more than anything else. Yeah, it's very, very important.
Awesome. Ankkit, thank you so much for your time. It was super insightful. I really loved our journey through the region you are responsible for. Thanks a lot. It was great talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me, Ben. It was really great talking to you, and thank you.
Thanks a lot. And thanks a lot, guys, for listening in. See you next time.